Can you see something with a lot of I don't know. You see my screen?
Perfect.
Okay.
The colors, yeah.
All right. So when Michael asked me, you know, I just, what do you want to talk about? And I just came up with a couple of words, and now I have to find, let's say, the headline or the talk towards it. And so the headline is here: Resilience and Moonshots towards the new normal. And I want to share a little bit about a feeling and something which is already in our world, and now somehow this COVID thing kind of put a new lens on things, and in a way also, how do you say, accelerated a lot of stuff. So let me start with this. So our house is on fire. That was sort of the thought I had already before, and I don't know what is the date. For me, it's maybe March 16 when we got in lockdown. Before it felt a little bit unease, but not so much. What you know, when is the date for COVID? I don't know yet. What is our 9/11 or so? But maybe March 16. So we are already living on a kind of a burning platform. Let's say climate change has been a big one, is a big one, and is somehow maybe bigger. It is bigger, but kind of putting this in perspective is a question for me. So I think we see also the peak of capitalism, and I think these slides are developed throughout the summer of last year, and I feel that this is again, you know, even more true now. I even feel that we see the peak of democracy, if not, you know, big challenges. We see that, you know, policy makers, especially the ignorant ones, you know, really harm the people they vote for or voted for them. We see that technology, that is the one we understand. That's sort of this exponential curve, and it's very nice and mathematically, and we feel it and we live it and feel that we have some kind of sense of how that relates to what we're doing. You know, at least every 2 years or every year we see a new iPhone, and maybe every 2 or 3 years we might even buy one, and you see these steps, this exponential stuff. And now all of a sudden we have the coronavirus kind of basically just jumped through this whole thing, and just accelerating all these different feelings. So in a way, you know, what is the new normal? We have lived through the past couple of weeks with, you know, nice memes and Skype calls, and I feel really zoomed out after a couple of hours. I'm working more than ever, feels like, because before, similar to some of you I know from conference, maybe spend 50 conference a year, which was a distraction, and it's you know, also a different rhythm. If you say, hey, I'm out of the office for 2 days, well, you don't really check emails and you're not on Zoom or something like that. Now all of a sudden we are more glued to our screens. There's really cool videos you see sending around, like you know, hello from the inside and so on. So and art, and we learn new Finnish words for drinking at home and so on. So that is, you know, the new normal. I feel there's a huge gap here, the absence of any kind of coherent narrative from, let's say, our United Nations world leaders in something when we envision, let's say, and we feel this overview effect, what astronauts tell us, that we are basically seeing Earth from the outside, and you see, wow, we are all in this together. I mean, this is the feeling in a maybe bad way that astronauts have if they see the beauty of our Earth. So if you feel this kind of you know, overview effect from, you know, let's say from the moon or from somewhere, now this is in a way what I'm feeling is that we are in this together. We are having a view outside, and all of a sudden we say, wow, everybody has the same problem. You know, we have people, today is the day of labor, and in Germany I think 10 million people from you know, 27 million households, 10 million people are unemployed or at least furloughed, and so on and so forth. So that's really yeah, hard to grasp. And so one of our faculty members, Alex Mankowski, Futures of Daimler, says, well, it's extremely important for a researcher into the future to develop a feeling for the passage of time. And I think we have very much grown a feeling of what the future will hold. But if I talk a little bit more on a, let's say, corporate sense right now, people have developed their strategy and say, wow, this is where I am right now, this is where I want to be, and this is my current plan. And most people think this kind of more linear curve, not really in any kind of exponential world. So now if we think moonshot, that's something which goes all the way out there into not only probable futures, but let's say desirable futures, where you consider the SDGs and you really think, okay, what is not only new for my company, my product line, but also outside of my industry. And I think there can be amazing things, but this kind of thought process is very foreign to most innovation leaders and corporates. They're like, okay, no, we have to do R&D, we have to do something now. And especially now, we will see probably a lot of things contracting back to, okay, let's just talk the next 2 months. And that is obviously a reflex which we can just understand. That's obviously survival mode. But I think also this is a time where, well, we have, hopefully some of us have time, I don't, but a lot of people say they have time, in developing new ideas and say, okay, well, we have to be back into dreaming mode, because this is a tabula rasa for all of us. It's a new normal, it's a new way of calibrating, and we have to also allow and encourage and envision new ways of how do we want to live, what is the future for our kids, for future generations, and so on. And going all out there, this is what Martin always says is, okay, one is the moonshot, but coming back is sort of the most important part, the slingshot around moon, because we will maybe never land. We will just bring it back here. And between, let's say, where we are in this kind of moonshot idea, that's somehow our new normal. And to define this and get a grasp for it, that is something I feel we have to do now. And now my computer is a little bit getting too hot here. All right, so that's basically what we do at Future.io with our our work in our moonshot canvas. But let me just see my here. Okay, my computer got frozen. So just for some of you who are not familiar with this, so our definition of moonshots is something like it has obviously a purpose in the center. It impacts millions of people. It uses a breakthrough technology, has obviously a financial impact, but on the side for thinking to make it even more, let's say, desirable, we have to also include social impact and ecological impact. So, and I think that is something which is, we have to get all of these things into perspective. That is what Google X is doing, or Telefonica Alpha in their Moonshot Lab. So feel the future. And here I want to get off my path of, let's say, corporate talk, and say I was really struck by a couple of artists and people who started to be creative about this era. And so I want to basically just close or use a poem in something and maybe put the pictures towards it. So this is the headline: "We feel asleep in one world and woke up in another." I see I have more time than I had thought of. So here's a little story. So this is New York, and it's New York 2001. Obviously, some of you know this is basically the week after 9/11, and it's not, this is Central Park. It's probably a little bit like now, but you have more these spires and more skyscrapers. But this is, for me, this is a picture. I don't know who of you know the song of Bruce Springsteen, "Empty Sky." And this was made after 9/11, and it just like this feeling of, I was actually in New York. I lived there for 7 years, and the day of 9/11, I was on the train. We were, at 42nd Street and Fifth Avenue when I looked down Fifth Avenue, and you can see the skyscrapers and World Trade Center was sort of all in full bloom, let's say, of smoke, and all of a sudden the whole thing crashed and fell down. So I saw the first tower fell, and that was devastating. And from that on, you know, the next couple of weeks you were glued to TV, and I had a startup in New York, and we had $250,000 of, you know, orders in, and it was all good and nice. We worked for a lot of fragrance companies and big brands, but within 10 days, like, the marketing leaders were gone, all the orders were pulled, and basically within a day, internet advertising and anything with innovation was basically persona non grata. I didn't have a job. There was actually nobody. Before, you think like you're on the top of the world with internet, advertising, websites, cool. We worked for MoMA, Museum of Modern Art, before, and so it was all a really cool time in New York. All of a sudden, boom, this whole thing changed. And on top of that, during this time, I was scheduled to have how many people are we here? 18, right?
25.
All right, so this is a private Chatham House group. So I have, I was on the 16th of September, I was scheduled to have a kidney transplant. And so within 9/11, they said, no more operations, nothing happens here, and so on, you have to go home. And that was a very, obviously, terrifying thing. I did it then a month later, October 16th. And for 3 months, I had to be in quarantine. I had to wear a mask. I couldn't see people. So I was there in a way. And I don't know if that is resilience or not, but once you have a little bit older, you have a couple of these scars in your life, and you see that these situations happen. 9/11, 2000 NASDAQ, 2008, now 2020. And it's not that they're getting easier, but it's a little bit, I think it changes your perspective and your attitude towards crisis. Literally, you know, March 16th, when they closed down, obviously I'm with our team, we are in the event industry, if you will. We live from people getting together and from these things. So I have no clue what we do the next half year. We'd obviously try hard to do something and jump into online. But within this situation, for example, in New York, you know, part of the resilience training maybe I got was, you know, through my network. A friend of mine called within, you know, a week or two after this, and basically, you know, I was thinking about getting a job in the IT industry, and now he said, no, I'm eating mango ice cream in Mallorca. I said, yeah, that's great for you, but I need that job. What about that other startup we were talking about? And he said, no, that they're gone. Sorry, they went out of business and so on. But this ice cream is fantastic. Well, long story short, he invited me, and then I became a franchise, I don't know, operator. Basically, I opened up the office for a European ice cream company in America, and went into a totally different industry, and basically, I don't know, raised their money, and it was quite interesting ride. So there's industries who win and industries who fail, and there's the value of friends and network, and you know, I think, and especially the attitude of getting out of a slump and out of that, you know, looking into a dark hole. That is not what we want right now. So we have to see how can we develop beauty. Luckily in Hamburg, I don't know if you know, where all of you are in the world. I want to talk with you a little bit in a minute. You know, we had 6 weeks of sunshine, so that was definitely better for the mood rather than 6 weeks of rain while we were all at home. So I think this resilience comes from your inner purpose, and somehow finding a way that there's you have to be quicker through denial and rather go into acceptance and say, okay, if this is the fact, what do we do now? And I'm still in that era where we have to find new ways. But maybe, and this is, I want to end now with a couple of slides and say, well, there's maybe some poetry also in this time, and maybe some art and new lenses or new visions or something. And we have to try to compute and say, okay, if this is a normal, where's the nice parts of that, and how can I pick it and lift me up in others? So I want to close with reading this poem, which you probably saw and was passed around in so many WhatsApp groups and whatever. So we fell asleep in one world and woke up in another. Suddenly Disney is out of magic, Paris is no longer romantic, New York doesn't stand up anymore. The Chinese wall is no longer a fortress and Mecca is empty. Hugs and kisses suddenly become weapons and not visiting parents and friends becomes an act of love. Suddenly you realize that power, beauty, and money are, I cannot read because there's Gerd and Samir, okay, and can't get you the oxygen you're fighting for. Nature continues and is beautiful. It only puts humans in cages. I think it's sending us a message. And that next slide is a big one. That's why it takes a little bit of time. So this is Tuscany, my favorite place. Okay, this is again, the last slide takes forever. Okay, my computer is frozen. For the last slide. Okay, so this is, I will come in a second. So these, here it is. Okay, so you are not necessary. The air, earth, water, and sky without you are fine. When you come back, remember that you are my guest and not my masters. So I like these pictures from empty Tokyo and empty New York, because somehow, obviously there's a beauty in this architecture. It's very, it shows very symbolically and they're beautifully, they're created of art, but, where's the absence of people and this kind of serendipity that we love and the, this close encounters with people, hearing somebody laughing over there, hearing a bird singing, catching an eye of a beautiful person. So I think these are the moments we're cherishing right now, and I have no idea what this new normal is. I'm basically convinced that well, we will not get back to that normal which we had before. Most likely for the next 2 years we will live with certain outbreaks and relationships or how do you say new feelings of that, what is happening here, but we also have to find a new way. And so I have, I think, time to get feedback, and I really want to listen and hear how you all coping, and if you already have plans or where you are in this life right now. And I have to try to switch see if I can stop the sharing. Like my mouse. Okay. So, hello everybody. Who likes to share and tell a little bit about what they're doing right now, and maybe if they found some good ideas for getting us out of this, and what is your work, what's your path of resilience right now towards a new normal? Maybe that's the question.
Well, I think for me the most important thing is staying connected, and that is possible if you have a network. And therefore, I'm glad right now that I invested into my network for many years. And I think having a network really creates something of a very special way of a safety net. What I find challenging is to kind of cope with all the different streams and movements people talking about this virus, you can easily get lost,
Yeah.
because all the scientists and everybody who has a say in that talks and talks and talks, and it's very hard to grasp what the essence is, at least for me. And I really hope that some kind of miracle happens, not in the way that this just goes away, but in the way we as people and as a society and as leaders find a way to handle this by creating a safety net for everybody around us.
Harold, if I was to add on to that, I think one thing that we noticed, both personally as well as with people around me, there was a lot of loss of structure that institutions give. You know, like whether it is structuring your time at work, structuring your interactions with your family and your friends, in whether it's in a bar or a restaurant or things like that. And lack of a method to structure time causes a lot of distress to most people. So what we started doing is simple things. So like my business partner at home, he does an assembly for his kids in the morning before they start a virtual school. Just that little thing helps the kid focus. For our entire company, we're scattered across Canada, London, Singapore, Sydney. What we do is no matter what, everybody gets on a call for an hour, just so we see each other's face and put some structure in. Now, on the positive side of things, an interesting thing has happened. A lot of, I would say, extremely senior people who tended to be in a lot more meetings and quite inaccessible around the world have suddenly gotten quite accessible as their calendars have sort of opened up as well. So you're able to engage in more meaningful conversations. The biggest challenge at the moment, I know it's just anything between 4 to 8 weeks for all of us, depending on which part of the world we are in. At least for me, like what I notice is starting anything new is impossible. You can maintain what's going on. You can make sure things don't fall over, but we still haven't figured out how the hell do you start something new when you can't get people in a room with a whiteboard. Just in very basic. So just 3 observations from me. Thanks, Harald.
I think, great, Samir. I think to the last point, especially new contexts, it's hard because we are used to, I don't know, ideally try to get in a room, have a coffee, and there you have these kind of quick things. Sometimes within 3 minutes, you're like, okay, he is my man, she is my, she's amazing inroad to kind of getting a marketing gig or whatever. I think these kind of things are very hard over the phone because everything is just like so flat and it's so, and people don't really want to talk to new people. I mean, right now we already in so many Zoom calls, and somebody lately also said, hey, I should introduce you to, and I said, okay, hold on a little bit. Let me just kind of reach out to my old guys and sort myself. Alessandro, you have a nice background. Where are you? Is that Italy or?
Thank you. I am from Canary Islands.
Canary, oh, cool.
You know La Gomera?
Yeah. I've not been. I've known some of the other islands, Fuerteventura and Lanzarote, but that's the green one, right?
Yeah, it's the one with the rainy forest.
Very cool.
I wish you could visit.
How's the situation there?
The situation here is on Monday, the first phase 1 of the lockdown is gonna end, so we will be able to move through the island because also there are no cases here, and not going out of the island, but at least we go back to the possibility of movement. And I consider this stop, it was really necessary. Humanity is going in a direction that we just want to grow. We are pushed by all the paradigm, all the way of seeing life, and we lost the contact with the reality itself of life. So
Yeah.
for me, for example, the direction we will have to follow is going back to a much more tribal lifestyle, where people rediscover the mutual care that we lost, because with the competitive attitude, yeah, each one of us can be an enemy. And this is very, very unhealthy. This is one of the base of sickness now we experience in our beautiful planet, with all the ingredients to live like in a paradise, by the way.
Okay. So there's another island person here, Kanai, and you were doing very lot of busy things on Sundays with your and your conferences. You want to share what you do?
Thank you for first of all for the call. I really appreciate the presentation and the comments. I'm in Ibiza, and it's really nice here, although the restrictions are very tough. We are living in nature, and I'm very lucky being here. I think during this process, the most difficult thing has been for me to face that actually I have been avoiding a lot of feelings in my busy life. So now I have to allow them, and I'm enjoying the process. Actually, I am saying hello, sadness, fear, you know, everything is changing so fast. And normally I'm a person who thrives with change, but I notice I like the change when it happens the way I like it. So nature showed us that actually there is a bigger design happening. And my biggest appreciation during this time is all the human work, human labor that was invisible to me. Although I appreciate farmers, service providers a lot, now I see even growing a seedling in my garden, how much effort and patience it takes. So I'm so grateful to all these people that we don't stop to recognize. I'm also very appreciative of the earth, the air, the water, and all these cycles of nature, which became very visible to me when I moved to Ibiza last year. One of the challenges I have is that my daughters are in Istanbul with their father, and they are young, 7 and 9 years old. I haven't seen them in 3 months. I miss them so much. I think we need to find ways to interact more humanly using digital technologies, especially with younger generation. Somebody mentioned about older generations. I think this intergenerational communication on digital is super important. Thank you. It's so nice to see you.
Ciao. So we have 1 or 2 minutes left. I don't know who's the next presenter, but Peter, are you still here? No, he's switched off his camera.
Peter's muted.
You were eating. That's good. So I need you to have some final words.
I'm here at Le Ciel HQ, Le Ciel Foundation, and the others are having lunch. They all send their love, Harold. I think it's beautiful to hear everyone's comments. I loved what you said around resilience. The key to resilience is finding your inner purpose. If you have your inner purpose, I think that's super helpful. And maybe there's a chance for people who don't have one, who don't really know why they're here, to try and explore that question. I think practically speaking, the notion of reconnecting with your old network is true. Yet at the same time, we do, and it goes back to what Kanai was saying, except not just intergenerational. If we can redefine what the problems are, and now we've had a direct experience of we really are interconnected, even though we're having to do this and everyone's got square heads, how are we going to design these things together? We've got the same problems. We need to figure out how to collaborate together. And it's been amazing to see people starting to build practical digital networks and platforms, to see what Michael has done here. You know, Rudy, you guys, those communities are happening now. And we have to move, as Gerd said, from a position of let's all talk about how we feel a lot. At what point do we start moving to action?
Yeah.
Okay, are we now ready? Are we all facing the same direction? Have we decided what we're going to do? Okay, what's the next step?
Cool. Thanks, Peter. Always so thoughtful, and exactly, I think this is where we have to go now. First, sort our thoughts, get aligned with our purpose, and then, well, get aligned with all of us, and here move towards the next thing. And who is the next speaker? I don't know the agenda, and if the next speaker is already here, because I think I'm out of time.
Thank you so much, Harald.
Thank you, Harold. Thanks, everyone.
So good to see you all. I want to all hug you soon, whenever that's happening. So I don't know, whoever is the speaker, please just take over and say something, or then I will mute myself. Hey, Sasha, hey. Can we all switch on our cameras for a second, that we just see each other, and then I switch off all of mine as well. It would be so cool. Let's be some goofy thing. Gerd, when are you doing? You're at 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see you at 5.
Looking forward.
Okay, I will say get out of here, and then hopefully the next speaker is coming. Okay. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.